Pattaya City Expats Club is a non-profit social organisation and our speakers are volunteers. The club as such assumes no responsibility or liability for the professional reputation of or the quality of services provided by the speaker today.
As I say to everyone, don't get old, it sucks. My sins, unfortunately, have caught up with me because in my younger days, I was very much enthusiastically playing squash and judo and tai chi. And all those sports play havoc on knees and ankles. And eventually it does catch up with you. But there we are, that's one of those things. But this coming month, I'm 85, so I think I'm not doing too bad after all that. Now, my wife for her sins is responsible, as Ren said, is responsible for the British Consul coming down here and giving a talk. She actually gave a talk at the British Women's Group in Bangkok because most of you know that Judith had stage 4 multiple myeloma, which she went into remission, and recently we did a test. She hasn't got a trace of cancer in her body. Absolutely fantastic. But she has ongoing treatment, which unfortunately means she spends most of her time up in Bangkok. So she lodges with the eldest son and his family while she's up there. Okay, enough of me, my problems. Now it's your problems. But one thing I do have to say, that when it comes to question time, please do not start asking the consul about frozen pensions. It is not in her remit. It's not in the embassy's remit. This is a responsibility of those 600 so-called representatives of the people who work in the Houses of Parliament, also known as the Palace of Westminster. And I'm afraid their interests take far more precedence over yours and mine. So without further ado, may I introduce our consul, British consul. May I just call you Joanne? I thank you. And this is Joanne. Her surname is rather involved. Okay, Joanne, over to you.
Thank you very much. Can I just say I did not ask Les to say that about frozen pensions. He actually brought it up. I could have hugged him when he said he was going to say it. But anyway, just so that you are aware, because I don't want us to all get off on the wrong footing. So, lovely to be here. Lovely to see so many of you. I'm quite an honest person, so I'm going to try and manage your expectations today. I am not going to say, I will take that away, I will do that, I will change it, when I know I can't, because that's not being honest with you. So I hope you will all respect me for my honesty today. So where shall we begin? My name, Joanne Finnamore Crorkin, and say I'm Her Majesty's Consul at the British Embassy in Bangkok. I have been there since last October, so I'm coming up for 1 year. 30 years ago, there was a programme on the BBC called True Brits. And it was a documentary. There was about five episodes, and it was a documentary on the Foreign Office. And one of them was based around the consul at the time, who was in Bangkok, a lady called Jean Sharp. And I remember watching that series. I'd already been in the Foreign Office for over 12 years at that time. I remember watching it and thinking, that's the job I want. That's what I would like to do almost when I get older. And here I am, 30 plus years later. Since then, or before coming here, I have done a lot of consular work. I am very, very passionate about it. And part of that is obviously helping British nationals every day, regardless of what they've got themselves into, regardless of some of their issues. But also, I do get frustrated with our policy, like I'm sure anybody does in any job that they do. There are rules, there are regulations, there is guidance, there is policy. And yes, some days when I hear of somebody's unfortunate story, you know, I'm almost drafting that message back to London to say, oh, but the policy, or I can't do this, I can't do that, and that would really help them. So yes, I probably get just as frustrated sometimes as many of you may be if ever you've had to visit us, or you might do in the future. The other thing is that no 2 days in the office are ever the same. This week we've had, to date, just 7 cases since Monday morning. Now that is quite low for us. That's 7 people, 7 British nationals that we've had to then start helping for one reason or another. Of those 7, 4 were deaths. And we are seeing on a monthly basis that over 50% of our cases are actually deaths. I'll give you some stats, because we all love our statistics, don't we? So in May, we opened 144 new cases. Now, whether that be welfare, hospitalisation, arrests, missing person, child cases, rape and sexual assault. In June, we opened 83, so quite a dip. July, we were 103. So again, you know, it's not that we know each day exactly what our work is going to be. In June, of those 83, 36 were death, 9 were arrests and detention, 1 was child welfare, 21 were ordinary welfare, 11 hospitalizations, 1 missing person, and 4 victims of crime. To go into a little bit more detail, a father in the UK reported that his children had been left abandoned following the death of their mother. We spent many hours on this case working out how we could help these children, only to find out that this was all false and that the father in the UK actually had mental health issues. Another place we had to do with somebody who had intentionally jumped from a balcony. Another place, it was somebody who'd actually been killed in a road traffic accident. Another place, suicide by gunshot. Missing person, body was later discovered, the cause of death being determined as suicide. And then another one, somebody claimed to be held against their will. So that's what we dealt with in June. In July, as I say, 103 cases, 47 deaths, 11 arrests and detention, 10 child welfare, 16 welfare, 12 hospitalizations, 5 missing persons. So that should give you a little bit of a flavour of what we do in our daily work. And this comes under the title, as we see it, as assistance. So this is when somebody then, say, has got into trouble. Now, initially, these people will probably be routed through we have a call centre in the UK. So many of you will be aware, these days, as you may have done in the past, you'd just rock up at the embassy, you'd sit, you'd chat, what have you. You come to the embassy still today, but you will be shown a phone and you then phone through to a call centre. And this happens worldwide. And part of this is so that we are consistent in the advice and in the help that we give to all our nationals. So whether you're calling from Madrid, from Moscow, from Mexico, you will be given the same advice. In June, there were 823 calls were handled by our contact centre purely relating to Thailand, and of those, 135 were then escalated to the section. So if somebody had unfortunately been robbed, had been raped, had an argument and had been thrown out of their accommodation and had been then dropped or had turned up at the embassy, they would make that call, and then the call centre would either advise them and off they go and we don't see them, or they would then call one of my team and say, right, you've got so-and-so downstairs, you need to see him. We would then bring him upstairs and we would then deal with him, and that is when we would then open a case. I have 22 staff at the moment. We are purely there dealing with British nationals in the consular section. Unlike many other embassies, high commissions that you may have visited in Commonwealth countries, we in our section do not deal with visa applications, and we no longer deal with British passports. And again, that is a worldwide thing for the Foreign Office. Some of the other issues that we're dealing with at the moment, we had recently a father was arrested, taken into prison, and with him he took his 4-year-old son. And so we worked around the clock to work with the Thai social services, with the police, with the prison authorities. That 4-year-old could not stay in prison, but where could he go? Who could he go to? So some of these cases, when they do come to our attention, can take up a lot of our time to then try and work out how we are going to solve this. We have 20 plus people in prison at the moment. We are non-judgmental. It doesn't matter why they are there or what they have done. It is our duty to ensure that they are getting fed properly, that if they've got any health concerns, that we then take this up with the authorities. We have a program of visiting them on a regular basis, again, depending on exactly how vulnerable they are. And my team will go out, whether it's up to Chiang Mai, whether it's down to Krabi, and they will then visit the prisoner and take forward any concerns that they do have. We also have, I think it's at the moment, 5 people in Immigration Detention Centre in Bangkok. Now, for any of you who may have visited there in the past, yes, it's not a nice place to be in. Can we get them out of there? No, as we cannot get people out of prison. Therefore, we have to work with them to make sure that their time spent in these places is as comfortable as possible. And then with the immigration detention detainees, work out how we will get them back to the UK. We do not pay for them to get back to the UK, and we do not pay any of their overstay fines. The other things that we do not pay for, unfortunately, fortunately, however way you see it, is hospital bills. And I think it's already been highlighted on a couple of websites. This is a concern for us because as I travel around the country and go to visit the various public hospitals, I will arrive at some and the first thing they do is give me a list and say, these British nationals have not paid their bills. And I have to sit there and say, you know that the embassy cannot do anything. And they say, yes, we can, but we have to give you those bills. I don't like doing it. So again, we need to try and work to try and ensure more so tourists do have insurance so these hospital bills can be paid. But we'll touch a bit more on that a little bit later. The other area is that we do not pay legal fees either. Again, we can advise you. We have a list of lawyers, and we can hand that over to you and say, right, you then have to have, or we would advise you to have legal representation, and you will need to pay for a lawyer yourself. The other thing that we cannot do is assist you with your visas for remaining in Thailand. I believe if Thailand was the same as anywhere else, there might have been a slight change to this during COVID, but now we're back to normal times. So if it is that the immigration say, no, you have to leave or you have to do something, we cannot help you with those either. Another area which is quite new to us and new to many foreign missions in Thailand is to do with the trafficking of people from Thailand into Myanmar, possibly Cambodia as well, and to a lesser degree Laos. And these are people British people who have answered job adverts for jobs in Thailand. They've got on a plane, they've been met in Thailand, then they end up in Myanmar in scam centres. And again, we're working with whoever we can to, with the Thai authorities to see what they can do with the International Organization of Migration. We have had a couple of cases, and as you would imagine, when we heard of the first one, that was a group of us working from, I think, a Thursday night until a Monday night, working out what we were going to do. How were we going to deal with this case? So that's another area. I say it is very new to us, but I think it's going to be here to stay. And it's not just British nationals. We're aware of Indians, Filipinos, people from South America. So it's happening, to a lot of other people. So that's touched on what we do assistance-wise. The other area, which probably you will have a little bit more association with and probably comments at the end, is what we call the documentary services that we offer. So this is, if you want to get married in Thailand, you need to come to us and do an affirmation of marriage. Also, the other areas, if you need your passport copying for certain tasks that need doing here. Yes, we did a lot more in the past. We did a lot more worldwide in the past. We would do your pension letters, we would say where you lived, we would do driving licenses. We've had to free up our staff's time so that they can deal with those scams, with those rapes, with those children, the more vulnerable people that there are. And so this is an area, again, it's not just Thailand. Everything I tell you today, please, all of you sitting in this room, do not think, oh, you're doing that just to Thailand. This is worldwide policy. So we have cut the number of services that we do offer. We do issue emergency travel documents. So whilst we don't have any involvement in your full validity passport, if you were to suddenly look at your passport today and see it's no longer valid and you need to get to the UK urgently, or you've lost your passport, or the dog's eaten it, anything like that, and you need to travel, you would go online, make your application. We then, in Bangkok, print that once it has been approved. So you then come to us. So in July last month, we issued 57 emergency travel documents. In June, we issued 32. Our third stream of work is what we call prevention. Now, probably some of you have seen me standing with the immigration officer here. Others may have seen my colleague with the tourist police up in Chiang Mai, and you might think, oh, photo opportunities, isn't that pretty? Why are we doing it? We're doing it to build up good relations with all the Thai authorities. So when things do go wrong, we are in a much better position that we can advise you. We could call them if need be, by building up those relations. 6 of my team and myself actually went to the morgue the other day, or the PFI in Bangkok. And part of that was because I wanted my team partly to see a dead body. It's in normal times. If we had a crisis and there were dead bodies, what I don't want to do is take a team with me and find that I've got 5 behind me who are too scared, too frightened, too upset to see a dead body. So we do things like that. So, you may think, oh, they're out and about. What are they actually doing? It's to ensure that our staff are ready for anything. It's to ensure that we have our contacts in place, that we have good relationships. The main thing that came from that morgue is that they turned around and said, you are the best embassy in Bangkok for liaising with us, for replying to our emails on time, for making it very clear what's happening as regard autopsies, post-mortems, things like that. So that's what we want to be. We want to be the best embassy in Bangkok so that we have really good relations with all of these people. We go to hospitals. We've been to the mental health hospital in Bangkok. Again, the guy there just turned to us and said, we've never had anybody from the embassy visit us. We showed them respect. We had a long chat with them. At that stage, we'd never had to send anybody there or advise anybody to go. And they were so accommodating. I almost wanted to find somebody to then take to them. A few weeks later, it actually did happen. We had somebody in one of the islands who was suffering with some really bad mental health issues. They took him in, they dealt with him, they did the fit to fly to get him on that plane back to the UK. So again, that part, that paid off. What else do we do? We have guides. Again, none of you in this, some of you might have read it if you were dealing with friends. We have a guide on what to do if somebody dies in Thailand. So we try to make it as comprehensive as possible so that when you are dealing with a death, that you know what you should do and what you can expect. Where maybe there's a grey area, we will say that in the guide. Again, it's pointless saying every hospital in Thailand deals with a death like this, because we know that that's not the case. So we will say the service will vary from hospital to hospital. We haven't really touched on it, but another area that we are doing a lot of work is on rape and sexual assault. And I'm sure that all of you in the room would understand how important this issue is, and that if anybody, male or female, is raped in Thailand, that they get the best possible help that they can. So again, we have a very comprehensive guide. We have done some work with the tourist police, the Tourism Association up in Chiang Mai, and they've written their own local guide on how to deal with somebody when they are raped or sexually assaulted. We are now working to take that guide down to Phuket and work with the police, the tourist police there, so that when our British national is raped or sexually assaulted, they do not become re-victimised when they then go to the police station and report what has happened to them. We're not talking, hundreds of cases, but we are talking about a case that can become very complex, very emotional, and we have actually had somebody who, after they were raped, then committed suicide, and that was a British national. So I say that's where we are doing a lot of work. So as you see, it's all about relationships. It's all about relationships with people like yourselves. I won't ask you to put your hands up, but I hope some of you, at least in this room, do have insurance. I hope some of you do have wills. I hope some of you do have power of attorneys. It's an area I do want to do more work on, again, Thailand-wide, because that's when a lot of the issues we get will be possibly the Thai wife phoning up and saying, I don't know what to do now. My husband's died. They know how to bury him or cremate him, but what does she then do? How does she get anything that's entitled to her? So I plead to you all in the room, those that have got loved ones, make sure as much of your paperwork is in hand, is available and is up to date. And do double check with local lawyers that if you have a British will or power of attorney, British one, my understanding is that they will not be valid here, but again, please seek legal advice on that. It is an ageing population. We know Pattaya is one of the areas where we do have a lot of retirees. So again, you know, more work will be happening in that area. Another area which I did touch on is obviously people who end up in hospital. Now, most of these that come to our attention are what are related to road traffic accidents, and majority of those are people who have come off motorbikes. And they end up in hospital, and their insurance, if they have insurance, very often will not pay out if they are aware that the rider was not wearing a helmet, if the rider was drunk, or, and this is the most important thing, the size of the bike. Now, I'll put my hands up. I never knew there were different CCs of bikes until I came to Thailand. No reason. I've never had a motorbike, never known anyone who has. But if people read their small print, my understanding, it will say something like, this insurance, you can ride a bike up to 50 cc. Well, apparently in Thailand, no, they're 100, they're 150, etc. So your insurance becomes invalid the moment that you go and rent a bike with a higher cc. So we have done a little bit of work with the rental authorities, places like Chiang Mai, but that's not the answer. We need to work with much more senior authorities in Thailand. So, you know, we're looking at Ministry of Land Transportation, Ministry of Tourism, and with a new government, this is, you know, what we will start to work with these ministries to try and ensure there is law enforcement, to try and ensure that, you know, people do, when the rental people do rent the bike, they have seen the insurance they're rented at. It's going to be a very difficult ask. Which rental shop is going to turn away somebody if it is income for them? They're not. Yeah. So again, how do we tackle that one? The other area is that, again, what sort of driving license do you have? Does your driving license allow you to ride that motorbike? So these are some of the things that we are dealing with, we are working with on a daily basis. So it's to give you a little bit of an idea of what is going on, you know, behind the scenes. Going back to the scams, we're working, say, with International Organisation of Migration to try and ensure that every foreign mission in Thailand is aware of these scams and what is happening. And then what happens to the person when or if they can get back into Thailand. Because obviously if they've come over the border and they've been in Myanmar maybe for a couple of months, they're going to then be coming back over the border illegally. So what then happens to them? Are they going to be arrested? Are they going to be thrown into immigration detention centre, having just been trafficked to work in Myanmar? And of course, then the other issue is, never mind them being taken over as well, who are they scamming? They are scamming people in the UK, they are scamming people in America, they are scamming people in Europe. So that's not an area that we will be looking at, but again, my colleagues in the embassy will be looking at those areas to try and, you know, obviously put a stop to it. Hopefully towards the end of this year, we're going to have what we call a consular dialogue with the Thai authorities. And this is high-level meetings where we do raise with them our concerns, and they likewise can raise their concerns of their nationals who are in the UK. So that will be happening hopefully later this year. We have travel advice. We have our living in guides. We have other guides. We have, say, there's death in suspicious circumstances. There's our rape and sexual assault one. These are all out there. They're all on gov.uk, as are our lists, whether they be lawyer lists, whether they be care home lists. That leads me on to another subject, another area we're working at. We found a couple of years ago that we were getting a few older people just dropped at the embassy, British nationals, because their family could not cope with them because they didn't know what was wrong with them. And it was dementia, Alzheimer's, these type of things. So it was like, well, what do we do with them? So again, I've got a dedicated team in my team who have worked really hard, and what they have done, they have managed to get funds to bring out people from the UK to train or to bring to attention people in care homes here in Thailand what to look for when it does come to dementia, because a lot of these care homes, they sort of hadn't seen it. So again, it's another area where we are doing work to try and so that people become more comfortable. One left, right. Oh, better be quick, hadn't I? So, and again, you know, care homes, you know, without sort of looking around the room, you know, how many of you have planned for what is going to happen to you in the future? I mean, I feel as though this is all doom and gloom, but let's be realistic. You know, how many of you thought, will you remain at home? Will you end up in a care home? If I had spare money, I would invest in building more care homes in Thailand. And again, even though I'm not going to go into it, obviously what it costs for a care home, for you to be in a care home in Thailand, is probably a hell of a lot less than it would cost in the UK. So again, with that word pensions, or with inheritance, or with proceeds from the sale of property, your money will go further in a care home in Thailand. So again, that's some more work that we are doing, you know, behind the scenes. A lot of you will not sort of see that work. Crisis is our sort of last area that I'll touch on. So many of you, well, you may not here, but I was consul in Lagos in Nigeria in the late 90s, and at that time, if you were resident in a country, you would fill in a little white card, you'd bring it into the embassy, we would put it into a long box, and you know, we would then write out to you, we would call you to meetings, etc. What happened? That box kept growing and growing because people didn't tell us when they left. Again, happened around the world, so then we moved on to this IT system called Locate. So some of you, again, may have gone online, registered your presence, but again, people never told us when they were leaving a country. So we no longer have a registration system. What we do rely on is that we encourage people to sign up to travel advice. And that is how we would alert you if we needed to get an important message out. I will ask here, show of hands, who has signed up to our travel advice? Yeah, right. Okay, thank you. I would encourage all of you. There is a sign over there. You can do a QR code or you can go online, gov.uk. If you look in the brochure, Help for British Nationals, that will tell you how to do it. So what type of things will we tell you? Okay, say a flight goes down at Bangkok Airport and we know that that airport is going to be closed for hours and hours. We could quickly get that travel advice changed. If you have signed up, the minute that travel advice changes, you will get an alert to say we've updated our travel advice. You go on and look and it says, look, you know, we've heard airports are going to be closed for the next 5 hours. Check with your airline. Obviously, it's there for natural disasters as well. So not so much here, but places like the Philippines, you know, they will put out, right, we're hearing Typhoon X is on its way, it's going to be strength whatever, we advise this, this and this. The other one, which again, Thailand might be a bit more interested in, maybe not so much here, is if there are going to be any street protests. So if you read our travel advice at the moment, it's generic in the sense that it said protests may happen, we advise you to avoid them. Obviously, if we knew that they were in full swing and that there was trouble, again, our travel advice would change from something like, we advise you all to stay in until the situation changes. So that is how we would reach out to you. There, again, the travel advice, you know, you may read it and think, well, I don't need to know that, or why have they put that in there? It's a set template for everywhere in the world. So again, so that we are consistent. Next week, we've got a conference to deal with crisis, a 2-day conference in Bangkok, where, again, we are inviting a lot of the Thai authorities, whether it be the police, whether it be the natural disaster people, the Marine Department, and we'll have 2 days of us and I think 26 other embassies, and we will discuss, you know, how do we deal with crisis? I am so fortunate that with my team of 22 in a crisis, I know that we all know what we have to do, and I have enough staff. But somebody like one of the European embassies may just have one member doing consular. How are they going to cope in a crisis? So we'll come together. Obviously, we work very closely with the Americans, with the Australians, with the Canadians, and with the New Zealanders. So we would share what we had learnt. It's silly, 5 embassies trying one phone number to get information. So again, this is all to do with our contact making and being prepared. And one of the things in the Foreign Commonwealth Development Office is that we over-prepare for a crisis, and then we scale back if necessary. There will, following on from this conference, then there will be half-day sort of mini seminars in places like Phuket, Pattaya, Chiang Mai, just to deal more with the hotels and the tourism associations, so that there can be training for people in the hotels, what to look for, anything suspicious. And again, you know, wherever we have a lot of British tourists, we have to ensure that, you know, we are prepared and we never have another Tunisia crisis event, things like that happening. So that's what we do on the crisis side. So I think that's it from me for now. There's probably a couple of things I have missed, so they may come up in questions, so please feel free. I'm ready.
Okay, just before you start questions, I will say one thing that Joanne didn't touch on. Maybe she wasn't aware of it, and that is called a living will. If you haven't got one, get one, because it prevents them taking you into hospital and running your hospital bill up through the roof, because they tend to have cash register eyes the moment they got their hands on you. Recently, when I was in, and the cardiologist said, oh, we're going to do this, that, and the other, and my wife said, no, we have living wills. He said, what? I said, yes, you should have had a copy registered with you. And when he said, oh, I don't know anything about it, I said, we'll get one to you. And we phoned our solicitors up, which is actually Thai 888 Law. And within half an hour, Kelvin had turned up with copies of our living will to prove this. Because otherwise, I would have been on a couch, hitched up to God knows what, so that they could make money out of me. And it wasn't necessary. The other thing is, when it comes to hospital bills, don't be frightened to confront them on the price. We know that Thais don't particularly like confrontation. And when I was in hospital, the middle son and the younger son went down to the accounts. Now, when you've got two rather annoyed 6-foot-plus young Farangs, it has quite an effect, and suddenly my bill was reduced by 50%. Because at my age, I can't get insurance. I can't afford to pay 250,000 baht a month, and then told, but even though you've got that, it doesn't apply for this, that, and the other. And the medical conditions, my problem is, well, I only have a 50% kidney function. They use that as an excuse to say, oh, no, we can't insure and we can't do this, we can't do that. So don't be frightened to stand your ground. It works wonders, believe you me. Okay, and with that, I'll pass it back to Joanne.
Just a couple of things. Firstly, in a couple of weeks, we have somebody coming and talking about insurance options, so that'll be very good. But the team from Pattaya Mail have to leave, and they want to take a nice photo of you presenting, or one of us presenting the certificate of appreciation. Thank you so much. I thought your talk was fantastic, very clear. Even though I'm not a Brit, I learnt so much about how embassies think and organise. Thank you.
Giving me the opportunity to come and talk to you all. So there's a little something. Lovely, thank you very much.
Okay, Joanne, that was the easy part. Now you get back up there and you're going to have to answer some questions. Go on.
I will.
We aren't going to let you off that easy.
I should clarify that Barry and Peter Malhotra are not leaving, but the photographic team had to leave, hence the photo opportunity.
Thank you, madam. It was a wonderful, wonderful presentation. I thank you very, very much for you. Right, now I have a couple of questions. I've been here a long, long time, permanently, over 23, 24 years, but here a long time before that. Right, I think I registered with the embassy. I'm not sure now, by the way. Is it a requirement?
No, we no longer take. Well, when you say you did registration, did you sign up to our travel advice?
No, there wasn't such a thing in them days.
So any registration you would have done in the past is no longer held anywhere. So we will, we do not keep names of people here because, as I say, they don't let us know. So what we would do is you sign up to the travel advice, and that's how we would reach out to you in an emergency. Now, obviously, if a daughter, son, child from the UK hadn't heard from you for a while and got in touch with the Foreign Office, there's obviously very little we can do because we don't have those registration lists. So we would then ask them to report it to the UK police, and the UK police then would reach out to the Thai police. So if it was that people were concerned because they hadn't heard from you, or you go out for a walk one day and don't come back, we have no records at the embassy.
Right. The second part is that I am married to a Thai lady, 18 years, I think. I don't remember that I had to inform the embassy.
No, you don't have to inform. I don't know what it was like 18 years ago, but you may have had to have come to us to get permission, well, not permission, to get a letter to say that you are free to marry.
No, I did not.
Right, well.
No, I did not. No, I did not know. I remember at the where we're getting married here, we had to show my divorce papers, etc.
Right, okay.
So that's
Right,
okay.
well.
So is it a requirement or not a requirement?
No, so that's a question you would have to ask the Thai authorities, because they obviously allowed you to get married without having that letter.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and on that subject, we are working with very closely with the US Embassy, because when somebody does come into us, all that they do is that they will sign a piece of paper to say, I, Joe Bloggs, am free to marry. And we put a stamp on. We do not make one check whatsoever, because there is nowhere where we can check. There's no central registration of marriages. So you could have just got on a plane, come from the Philippines, left a wife there, come into us, done that affirmation, go off and marry somebody here. So we're taking this up with the Thai authorities, because we're trying to say to them, well, really, it's not worth the paper it's written on, but why can't your own Thai lawyers do this? Why do you have to come all the way from Chiang Mai, all the way from Krabi to come to the British Embassy when, you've got your own Thai lawyers where people could go to? So we're working on this, we're chipping away at it, but they were quite surprised when we did say, we do not check any registers whatsoever.
So the Thai lady can't claim a British, if I die, anything from the British government or nothing? Is that part of it?
No, I'm not saying any of that. I don't know, that's another issue. I mean, that's for you to put in place what your wishes are, okay? That's another issue altogether.
This is what she's referring to is called a certificate of unencumbrance, that you're not encumbered by marriage in your home country. It's required from anybody, any foreigners getting married in Thailand, Myanmar. I'd be married to my Myanmar lady now if you didn't need this, because Myanmar is like dysfunctional. So whether you're from Australia or wherever. And yes, it's not worth the paper it's written on, but it wasn't required years ago. You're quite right, it wasn't required, but they brought it in for some reason. I've got Anthony.
Okay.
Madam Consul, thank you for a lovely talk, very illuminating, illustrated well. I just have one piece of information for you. I was yesterday at the immigration in Jomtien, and they were all excited. The consul is visiting tomorrow. Your consul.
Right, okay.
So just to be ready that they're waiting for you with open arms at the immigration in Jomtien this afternoon. Okay. Whether lunch is included or not, I don't know.
Right, okay. Well, I say we were actually there, as you'll be aware from the photograph, I think that's appeared. We were there a few weeks ago. We came down to Pattaya and we had a very good meeting with them, with the tourist police, with TAC. And I can't remember the exact name now, so apologies. I'd said to them, right, in the evening I'd like to go up Walking Street because I want to see it. I'd seen it in the daytime. They said, no, if we're going to take you anywhere, we're going to take you to
Soy 6.
Wherever it was. Oh my God. I mean, what an eye-opener. I went back to my team and I went, I'm just so shocked we don't have many more cases down from Pattaya. It really was an eye-opener. But I need to do that. My team need to do that, because that's the only way that we get a feel. It's pointless me just sitting at my desk in Bangkok. How do I really know? How can I understand what is going on in this area? And to me, it was like, it was just like an incident waiting to happen, a bar fight or somebody not paying their bill. But now I can understand it a lot more. So I say we don't just do the immigration and the police, we do areas like that as well.
See, we need more ambassadors and consuls to come down here to give a talk at the club and experience Soy 6. Okay?
Yeah, ambassadors.
Yeah.
Hi, Joanne. Just to answer the first guy who asked the question, I got married 4 years ago and I had to get affirmation.
Yeah.
They required it, so
Right.
probably a long time ago it wasn't.
Yeah.
You mentioned about registration, and I think you answered that question, but are you trying to say that the British Embassy has got no idea how many British expats live in Thailand?
So where we get our figures from are immigration.
Yeah, I was going to ask that.
So on a monthly basis, we go to immigration and we will say how many people have you got in these areas and how many people have come into the country. Now, again, the figures aren't perfect, but it gives us a rough idea.
Will they release the names to you?
No, they can't do that.
So I could be living in the Philippines.
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
There have been a couple of cases where the team have come to me and said, we really need to try and find out if this person is in country. And so we've tried the police. We've sort of, if they've got relatives in the UK, where were they last? Things like that. And I have said to them, go to immigration. For some reason, in the Philippines, the immigration authorities there were a lot more accommodating and would say to us, yes, Joe Bloggs entered on this day at this time. Here, it's as yet, we haven't got that far, but it's something that I would like to... However, and I must point out, there are many people who don't want to be found. So, we have to... some of you don't get worried that, oh my gosh, I've been under the radar. But again, take that into account. All of you, just, do keep in touch with families in the UK. Again, especially when a crisis happens, let the family know that you are okay.
Over to the right, at your right here.
And can I just say, on the affirmations, we had one the other day, and we're working on it, because he used his brother's passport when he came in to us to get married. So the wife isn't married to him, she's married to the brother. There's now been children, and when I shared this with my opposite numbers in Jakarta, Japan, what have you, because we're always, have any of you had a case like this? And they, one came back and went, Yeeps, you get them all in Thailand, don't you? So, we are the largest consular section in the world, in Bangkok. Spain probably does have more consular staff, but they're scattered around Spain, whereas Thailand, we are all concentrated in Bangkok. We do have 4 honorary consuls and we do have 4 consular agents. But the days of when some of you would be aware of what the work was, that has changed a lot as well. Now an honorary consul will not do anything until we have asked them to do so. So in the past it was very much that they would go off, they would deal with somebody, then let us know. And again, to be consistent worldwide, they only do anything when we ask them to do so. Right, next question.
Yes, a few years ago, you used to issue proof of income letters.
Yeah.
Now, at that time, I think the cost was 4,000 baht, about £80.
Right.
And then you stopped doing it because you said you couldn't verify the actual figures involved. And so we had to go to our own banks to get it done. I want to thank you for that, because it's a lot cheaper me going to my bank than it is going to you for the proof of income letter.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right, well, thank you very much. Thank you.
See, do less work, get more appreciation.
I have a question about voting. My understanding is that people that leave the UK are entitled to vote in UK elections for 15 years after they leave. The problem is that the process currently to do that is that you would ask for letters to be sent to you at where you are, which then takes a while. You then have to fill them in and send them back, and by this time the election has gone and it's too late for your vote to count. There seems to be a need for changing this process to make it work for people who are living abroad, so that we still have the ability to have our votes. And the obvious thing seems to be an online thing. If you would go and register to say, I am registering that I am now living here, this is my passport number, this is my whatever other identification you would need, previous address in the UK, for instance, maybe a national insurance number, to verify that you are the person who is asking for a vote from outside. Is there any prospect this might happen?
I'm not aware of anything. I would advise you to, those that still do have MPs, get in touch with your MP to ask them for advice. Obviously, there may be changes of government in the future on things like this, but I am not aware of anything.
You can actually do it online now. I've done it online.
Okay, great.
Okay, you actually got a notification from the local authority where you were living before, where you were voting from, and they then confirm it, and it's all online. Okay.
That is actually quite correct. It is a local government issue. I contacted my local government, which was Barnet Council. They sent me the application forms. I sent them back to them, and I got a very nice letter back saying you are now registered to vote in UK elections, whether it is the local council or a governmental election, but you have to confirm it each year, because as far as they're concerned, unless they get that from you, you've passed on.
Okay.
Over here. Please stand up.
Hello. Just a story of mine. It's just a short one. March 2020, I came here on my first visit. I've now got to the retirement age, so I do live here now. March 2020, COVID happened. I was here, my first holiday to Thailand. I couldn't get back home. The plane stopped, everything. I rang the British Embassy, must be 20, 30 times. No help, no help. I lost total faith in yourselves. I'm not blaming you, because you've only been here since October. Yeah. But I would not even want to ring this place because of the bad vibe I got. And they left me to myself to try and get home. I was luckily with a Thai girl at the time who lived near Sisaket, and her family put me up for nearly 5 months until the provinces opened and flights started again. I'm just trying to say, if COVID happened tomorrow, would I have the same crap I had last time, or would there be somebody answering that phone? Because people were living in caves and everything. They'd run out of money.
First of all, your call would not have gone directly to the embassy. It would have gone through to our call centre. So that's the first thing, at a local rate. So, yes, early on, March 20, were we prepared? I don't know. No, because I don't think, as somebody just said, nobody was. So, yes, we do. And after anything like this, we do lessons learnt, and we then try and say, right, if this was to happen tomorrow, what would we do? We're training a lot more people up now to answer phones. The problem would have been the sheer volume of people calling from everywhere around the world. But please, as I say, don't let that cloud what you think of the British Embassy, because that call would have gone through to our call centre.
20 times I called.
Yeah, and 20 times it. Yeah, but they probably, just with the volume of the amount of calls, I mean, I don't know how long you hung on for.
A long time.
Yeah, and we were being told at the time, you know, the call waiting. You know, we were given graphs and things of when the call waiting had come down and then would go up again. Yeah.
Can't get through to a person to speak.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No.
Oh, thank you, Joanne, for your time today. Really appreciate that. My question goes right back to the beginning when you said you're interested in statistics, aren't you? So, You mentioned at that time 30 people died, 40 people died, all these people dying. My question is, before COVID, what was the death rate then?
I don't have those figures, but I think probably about the same. I don't think it's an increase because of COVID.
Okay.
I think that was exactly the same.
So you don't have the figures?
Not for pre-COVID.
Thank you.
No.
Well, I thought this was a wonderful morning. Okay, I want now to target the non-Brits. Who actually, I'm a non-Brit, I really enjoyed the talk and I learnt something about how consuls work. Who's glad they came as a non-Brit to learn more about consuls, yeah? So thank you for coming, the non-Brits, and I think it was really educational. And you're a wonderful speaker. You have such a warm presence. Normally I would give you a certificate now, but final round of applause for our wonderful speaker. And I do have a question. You know, she didn't want it videotaped, and I said, look, we can videotape it, and if you're happy with it, we'll put it up. If you're not, we're not. You think you were happy with it?
I was happy because you've been such a lovely audience. So thank you very much.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You can run away now and escape.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add, Joanne, next time you come, I'll be your personal guide. We'll go to Soy 6. Right. I've only been there one time, but we could try it out, but I'll be your man.
Lovely.
Yeah.